Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, colleagues, students, teachers, principals, and the panelists. My name is Muralee Thummarakudy. I am the operations manager for United Nations Environment Program Crisis Management Branch, normally based in Geneva. Due to COVID crisis, I'm working from home in Kerala at this point. But today, my work is not related to my official work, but something which is very close to my heart, which is education. The COVID crisis challenged every sector of our economy, but also education. Of the 1.6 billion students who are currently in the schooling phase, which is from the nursery all the way to PhD, their studies were impacted. And around the world, teachers, ministers, teaching institution administrators were finding way to deal with the crisis. It is in this context that we thought we would get to hear from the Finnish system, which has a tremendous reputation for being innovative in education. When we started discussing this topic, we thought, what should we call it? Should we give a very detailed title? And I suggested that the very name Finnsh Education is enough for us to gather an audience. And as I said, we have more than 1,900 registrations so far. Shows the tremendous interest on this topic from Kerala, from rest of India, from rest of the world. So I have great pleasure today to moderate this session, and I would introduce speakers one by one as they come to speak. Your mics have been muted, but please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A section of your screen. We are going to follow it very closely, and we would be responding to them. We will pick up many of those questions and give it to them, give responses to those questions. But we'll also be providing answers live to those questions. If you have any specific comments to make, you can always make that in the chat box, and we will also be following it in the chat box. So without any further ado, I will now invite Dr. Anup Jinadevan, who is a social entrepreneur, social policy researcher, and practicing dentist in Finnish government, who is currently based in Helsinki. He is a former senior lecturer of healthcare facility in Turku University of Applied Sciences. Dr. Anup is currently pursuing his PhD in social policy from University of Helsinki and a master's degree in education entrepreneurship from Oulu University of Applied Sciences. Dr. Anup holds a master's degree in healthcare quality improvement from the World Health Organization Collaborating Center, Faculty of Medicine, University of Helsinki, and a Bachelor of Dental Surgery from Dr. MGR University. Dr. Anup has extensive working experience over 22 years as a clinician and educator, both from India and Finland. With this very unique combination, I invite Anup to give a few words about the webinar. Over to you, Anup.
Thank you, Muralee sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the international webinar on Finnish education. So this is organized by, as I said earlier, University of Helsinki Center for Continuing Education, HY+, CMI Congregation, Mentors for You, Sacred Hearts Academy, and Venture Village. So my name is Anup Jinadevan, and I represent the organization Venture Village here. We are a Finland-based organization, and we promote Finland educational methodologies in school level at to let the children know the value of money from childhood, to know the importance of waste management, to understand sustainable living, to know about proper diet, oral health, girls' health, especially menstrual health, and many other fundamental topics missing in normal curriculum as co-curricular educational programs. As an opening remark, I would like to say that Finland is a small country with only 5.2 million people, famous for its fantastic education system and is one of the best in the world. Certain facts are very unique to Finnish education system. Children in Finland do not go to school until the age of 7. They enjoy their childhood. There is no standardizing tests, no competition between children, and no pressure during early childhood education. The focus of education is on overall development of the individual with a strong civic sense, eco-friendliness, sense of equality, learning life skills and basic economics from early childhood. Teachers in Finland have to get a master's degree to work. That means they are highly qualified, motivated, respected, and their professional status is close to doctors, engineers, and lawyers. Due course of this webinar, we hope that we could learn more about the Finnish education system and the possibilities and opportunities to collaborate with it. We could learn more about the compatibility of our new education policy in India towards the Finnish education system. And we could learn more about the importance of having innovative, phenomena-based, co-curricular learning programs for the schools. Also, we hope that we could understand more on the expectations and perspectives from the Indian side towards Finnish education system. So as a co-host of this program, with immense pleasure, welcome to all our guests, participants, and registrants to this webinar. And from here on, the stage is yours. And thank you very much for this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anup, for those opening remarks. As Anup mentioned, Venture Village is one institution which is trying to promote some of the best practices of the Finnish model in India. And I would now invite Dr. Prashant Palakapalli, who is the principal of the Sacred Heart College. He has a PhD in social sciences from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and he was a faculty member of the Rajagiri College of Social Sciences, one of the pioneering social sciences institutes in Kerala. He's a good friend of mine, and it's always a pleasure to welcome you. Dr. Prashant, you have the floor.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, yes.
Good evening and namaskaram to all of you. Very pleased to be on this platform with you. I deem it a great honor and privilege. Yes, I think we all look forward to learning from this, this platform. We pride ourselves in Kerala about our school education in general. We feel that we are very good at that. But I definitely know that very often our education is more limiting than liberating. That's what typically education is leading to. Though there are very many other positive elements. So, and we also, being a CMI, Kamala is Mary Immaculate, with my confrere Father Martin leading our educational enterprise. We have a network of about 500 odd schools all over India and abroad, and about 60 colleges and a few technical technology-based colleges and a medical college and a university. So with this vast network, I think maybe we would be benefiting from learning as to how Finnish education could be put into practice here to make education what it means to be liberative. That's number one. Number two, I feel to what extent can this be practical in a state like Kerala or India with its vast population and crunch of resources, often said so. Maybe we have sufficient resources, but we often say we have very limited resources. And the last thing, as Muralee and also Jinadevan had rightly pointed out, the most fascinating thing is about the teaching profession or profession of being an educator. How fascinating it can be and how free it can be and how liberating it can be. I think this could be a very learning opportunity, especially with the elections on and new policy of education having come into being. I think we are on a threshold where very many new things can be learned and put into practice. So, very pleased to be here. Sacred Heart College, though in higher education, we would be equally happy to learn more about learning and the fundamentals of learning, and see in what manner can we be partnered with many other institutions, including the Venture Village, as to how we can carry on the mission of education further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prashant. I now have the great pleasure and honor to invite two very distinguished guests from Finland. They work for an organization called HY+, which is established by the Helsinki University. And this institution is established precisely because there is so much interest around the world in Finnish education. And the Finnish ministers, prime ministers, and president going around the world is always requested for support on how to bring their best practices to other countries. So they decided to establish a full institution whose job is to promote such educational practices around the world. And they would actually be making a combined presentation. So I would introduce both of them together. So I have Ms. Minna Saade, who has 15 years of international experience in universities, NGOs, and the private sector, ranging from education, law, and environmental fields. Her true passion has always, however, been in education. For the past few years, she has been advising, designing, and leading customized training programs worldwide to enhance local education systems together with academic experts from the University of Helsinki. In her current position as a senior transnational education advisor for the University of Helsinki HY+ Global Services, Minna has had the privilege of working closely with educational professionals in Finland, Middle East, and India. Welcome, Minna. I will also introduce Riikka Halikka, who is currently responsible for transnational education service development and related projects in Europe, Africa, Iraq, Egypt, and Palestine, with specialization in international financial institution funded projects. Ms. Halikka has close to 20 years of experience in the field of internationalization of higher education and has been leading development cooperation projects in several African and Asian countries. Ms. Halikka led the International Affairs Unit at the Diakonia University of Applied Sciences for 15 years and has worked as consultant and educational policy development expert for Finnish Ministry of Education in Eritrea with FCA and UNESCO in order to support the national teacher policy processes. So we have this very interesting lineup, people with hands-on experience, people have assisted many countries in the past and continue to do so. As I mentioned, Finnish education has a great brand and great appreciation around the world, including in Kerala. So we are looking forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. We will start by thanking everybody for organizing this wonderful event. I feel truly honored to be here with you today. And now, as we all know, the world has changed, but hopefully we can also consider this event as a start for future collaboration between Finland and India in the education development. And of course, let's hope that we will soon also get to meet each other again or for the first time. Yes, just a few words about University of Helsinki HY+ and University of Helsinki And thank you once again for the wonderful introductions of our team. I'm very happy that we get the opportunity to talk with you today. So, University of Helsinki Center for Continuing Education is responsible for delivering transnational education services, education development, continuing education services, and also different project services related to education sector. And all our services are developed in close collaboration with faculties. In this case, in the education sector, of course, with the Faculty of Educational Sciences of the University of Helsinki. And we take a good care when delivering our services and designing our services to work in very close collaboration with our clients or partners in the education business. And we have a long history as a continuing education center within the university. So we've been providing evidence-based, research-based services in Finland for over 3 decades now. And currently, global services and international activities consist a great part of our business and of our work we do. Next one, please. And as already mentioned, we are from University of Helsinki and work as the business unit of the university. And University of Helsinki, we are very proud of our largest university in Finland. And University of Helsinki is also one of the highest ranking universities in the world, actually. And it's clearly the highest ranking university in Finland. We don't maybe have time to go to the numbers, but I'm happy to give more information about this as well. Maybe worth mentioning before letting Minna take the stage that the Faculty of Educational Sciences of the university is also quite highly ranked in international rankings. So it's very, and I'm very happy to also to be presenting for the faculty today. But without any further ado, I know you are eagerly waiting to get to the actual content. I will ask Minna now to take the stage and continue with the presentation, and we'll be here the whole time for any questions, comments, sessions later on. So once again, I'm very happy that and honored that we are here today. And now let's hear from Minna. Thank you.
Minna, you're on mute.
My apologies. So thank you from my part as well for all the organizers, and thank you, Riikka, for the opportunity of being here. It's very humbling that there are so many educators around the world who are interested on the way we do things up here in the north. We are a small country, but we are also heavily invested on an education, and this is also something that we are firmly believing on sharing our knowledge and localizing it in a correct way in different parts of the world. But without, we are pressed with time, so I'm gonna head to the main topic. Today I'm gonna be talking about the Finnish education system. I'm gonna give you a brief overview on what it looks like. I'm gonna touch base with the reforming of Finnish education system, how it began and what is happening right now. I'm also going to introduce the different stakeholders in the schooling system and how our curriculums are built and implemented. I'm going to touch base with the teacher training and a principal training that are in the core of how we have been managing to handle the pandemic and keep our schools open. I'm also going to give you a brief view on what we have done over here. Of course, we are all in it together. So the pandemic is global and every country has to deal with it in the best way they can. But I can share with you what we have done over here and what we have learned from it. And I was also asked to share some of the information on how we can collaborate with the people around the world and what we have done prior to the pandemic and what we are doing right now and what we are able to do after all of this is over as well. But without further ado, let's head to the main topic. Hold on, why isn't this changing the slides out there? So this is how the Finnish education looks like. Its basic foundations are that we provide equal right to quality education for all, regardless of their background, of their financial status, of everything, or the location where they are in the country. We also believe that there is no such a situation where a student is left behind, so there is no dead end in this system. We have always a safety network on if something happens and redirecting your life course. And also that is free of charge from the pre-primary school all the way up to the PhD level. These are all in our constitution, and this is what the nation is firmly believing in. Just to show you this, the bottom bracket over here, we have a pre-primary school education that begins at the age of 6. It's a 1-year training, and then there is a further 9 years of basic education. So this bracket over here is mandatory for all the Finnish students and the children in the country. Then there is, at the age of 16, the students make the decision of either heading long run on the higher education and the university track, or they go for the vocational that ends up in the University of Applied Sciences track. However, as you can see, the arrows are crisscrossing and going back and forth. And we believe that when you're 16, you can make the decisions for the rest of your life. Things happen, life changes, many things can come in the way, and or you just might change your mind and realize that this is not the career for you. So there are ways of crisscrossing. So at the age of 16, you decided to go on a vocational qualification, you can still crisscross all the way up to the university track and the PhD track, if that is something that you have decided later in life. Now we already talked about the PISA, and already the people over the presentations earlier already mentioned of the happiness of the children in our country. So we all know that the PISA is something where Finland has been ranking high on ever since we joined, constantly. But what happens is when we factor in the life satisfaction of the students, you notice that the Finland is in a category of its own over here. In simple terms, this means that our children enjoy going to school. We are trying to harvest a natural curiosity towards learning and experimenting and making it fun. So academics through joyful and with the balance of free time and schooling. Can I ask you, do you see this panel over here? So do I have to keep on moving it? I'm sorry, can you see the full screen? Without yes. Yes, so I don't need to move that for that reason, sorry. So let's move on to the education reform in Finland. So back in the 1970s, the nation was in a crossroads where we needed to decide what is the future for this country. And a nationwide decision was made that we need to invest on an education. We're a small country in a remote part of the globe, and in order to survive in a globalizing world, we need to see that education is in the heart of it all. Ever since, we have had the continuous reform going on in this country. The reform doesn't stop. You might change one part, but then you need to see and reform another part of it, and constant research around it. What is the best, what worked and what didn't work. Professor Dr. Jari Lavanen from our own Faculty of Educational Sciences have been involved in several international education reforms. And he says that education policies must be based on the long-term perspective that transcends government terms of office. This means that the political parties should not be involved in this, and in Finland this has worked. So education is one thing that everybody can agree on, and the importance of it. So after all these decades, we have managed to get to the point where we have equal right for quality education for all. As I mentioned, no dead ends, no child left behind, and also very small margins difference between the schools in the entire country. So in Lapland, they are performing as well as in Helsinki. Education is free from the early education to the PhD level. We had our last school inspections in 1990s. Because of the heightened level and the quality of teachers, we are able to trust that the quality is high everywhere without organizing school inspections. We have also eliminated the national standardizing test from the basic education. So our students, the first national test they're going to take is in a upper secondary level on the matriculation examination at the age of 18, 19. Higher education is merit-based because it's free. We need to also make sure that we get the quality students and the best ones get in. This also serves the interest of the students, so they are getting into the fields which is the most suited for them. Especially this is important for the teachers. As already mentioned, the Finnish teachers carry minimum of master's degree and is highly competitive to get in. So becoming a teacher is a choice, and it is desired profession in this country and highly respected. Another key element is the principal training. So all our principals are teachers first. They have qualified as a master, getting their master's in education. They have some work experience as teaching, and then they go on a further training to become principals. The advantage that this gives is the pedagogical leadership that they can give to the teachers and the support they need in their very autonomous position as implementing the curriculum. The collaborative work is based on research. So as I mentioned, the reform keeps on going, and we keep on researching and continuously trying to improve and answer to the questions of the future. Where should the education go? For instance, a National Agency for Education creates the policies for the education, but they do it in a collaboration with an academic experts, educational professionals, and parents and even students. They, for instance, create the national co-curriculum. During the pandemic now, we realized that these are one of those foundations that the education system can continue, and while affected by the pandemic, same as everywhere else in the world, we have been managing to keep our schools open, we have been managing to keep our universities running, and we have been able to meet the learning targets that are set by the curriculum. So moving on to the curriculum. I'm going to explain to you how the national core curriculum works in Finland, and also who are the stakeholders in this and how the education is organized over here. So the national core curriculum is a binding document created every 9 to 10 years, so going through the full cycle of basic education, by the National Agency of Education in collaboration with an academic expert. So for instance, there is a call for the university experts from our faculty to come and develop the next new curriculum. Once they release one, they start working on another one. So we work on it for that 9 to 10 years to release the next one. National core curriculum is a framework. It's actually this thin document that states the mentality, the idea of what the schooling should look like, what are we looking at, and setting the general learning targets for each age group. It also talks about the school culture, the relationship with the home and school, and the teacherhood and the role of the principal. It also raises the key issues that should be addressed and focused on during the schooling. This national core curriculum is then taken to the local level, to the municipalities. The municipalities are the providers of schooling, so they run the schools around the country. This curriculum is then taken to the local level, and the implementation is localized. This means that even though compared to India, for instance, Finland is obviously a small country, but it is very diverse. So the people and the nature and the surrounding areas are very different from north to south to east to west. So the implementation of the curriculum has to be possible on all parts of the country and meeting the needs of the different people in this country. The curriculum is then taken to the further localization to the individual school level. So the high level of autonomy to run the school, even though they are all public schools, is given here, and the curriculum is set to the framework of the individual school. It gives the pedagogical interaction between a teacher and a student and is supervised by the principals of the school. This curriculum is further localized to the individual child level, creating a learning plan and also serving the interest of the home and school collaboration. Over here, we believe that the schooling is not sole responsibility of a school, but the education is a shared responsibility between the home and the school. And then through the collaboration between home and school, we get to the best learning results and serve the well-being of the children. Now, to the core of the teacher training. Obviously, we're limited with time, so I could talk about an hour at least about the teacher training, how it happens in Finland. But to boil it down to the core of it is in this triangle that is presented over here. So we have the student teacher on the tip of it. We have a mentor teacher and a university lecturer. This creates the triangle where the pedagogical excellency lies, where the theory meets the practice. So the student teacher interacts with the university lecturers and learns the theory of the pedagogy at the university, at the faculty. But she or he also needs to attend the practicum periods that start from the first year of the studies and continue through all the years there in the university in the different levels. At the university practicing schools, Helsinki has 2 university practicing schools, and all the universities in Finland who has a Faculty of Educational Sciences own schools. These schools are actually departments of the faculty. However, they act as a neighborhood schools, and they follow the normal national co-curriculum, and they are regular schools, apart from the fact that the staff are also dominantly researchers, as well as they teach our children. So in these schools, our student teachers learn how to teach in practice. They start by observing, and then they move on to teaching themselves. This is to making sure that the theory that they learn at the faculty is having a touch base with the practical elements. Furthermore, the staff and the faculty at the schools are also researchers, so they communicate with the university faculty, and then the theory and a practice also mix there and get confirmed and serve the interest of developing the education. Now, this means that our teacher students and the teachers in general are highly motivated and self-critical, which has served the exceptional times we're having right now. They are self-direct and responding to unknown new challenges. They recognize conditions and they are able to adjust. They understand the core of the curriculum and how to implement it and deliver in order to meet the learning targets. So even if they can't do what they used to do before the pandemic, they are able to change and readjust. They also understand the meaning of change to the students and parents, and they understand that these are exceptional times and very scary times as well. They ensure the feeling of safety and continue as normal as possible in the given situation. So in short, they are able to assess, accept, and adjust to the current situation due to the high level of training and the practice in the field of education. The same applies for the leadership. So as I mentioned earlier, the principals in this country are all teachers first, and then they do further education to become principals. This gives them the pedagogical understanding of the realities that the teachers are facing inside the classrooms. Again, this is something that has played a very big role in the pandemic period. So our principals are self-direct and responding to unknown new challenges. They recognize the conditions of their own school, and they recognize the core functions of their own school. So they're able to pick and choose what is important and what is not on every given day. They understand the meaning of change and protect the faculty, students, and parents. So they make sure that the teachers, when they come to work, they feel safe doing that and they get support they need. They are communicating with the students and parents and making sure the parents feel safe to send their kids to schools during this period of exceptional times. These principles are also able to focus on the core of the leadership elements and lead to the learning lead to the learning results. Again, they're able to identify what is important, what is not, and what can we cut out that we can't deliver at this time, but what is that we need to find a new ways of doing. And importantly, they ensure the feeling of safety and continues as normal as possible in this situation. I contacted our principal of our schools before this, while preparing for this event, and I asked him, what is the one thing that is in the core of all of this? And he said, the schooling must continue as normal as possible, and we need to just keep on moving. Now, what really happened in Finland then during this year? On the 16th March 2020, the state of emergency was declared in Finland. Finnish schools were given 48 hours warning to move from contact teaching to distance learning, except for early education. Strong recommendation for people to keep their early education children at home was given. So this meant that, for instance, I had to keep my 5-year-old home because I was able to work from distance. This released the capacity for the people and the parents who couldn't stay at home and work from distance. For instance, the medical workers and others. And this way, the early education was given the opportunity to conduct education in a safer way by releasing the capacity there. On the 14th of May 2020, the basic education returned to the normal education and limits of the other institutional educational institutions were lifted. University made the decision to maintain in the distance learning. This was done because it was considered highly important for the well-being of the children to be able to finish their school year. There was 2 weeks left of the school year at the time. And they did, and we noticed that the infection rates did not go up. So everything worked perfectly, thankfully. Came the summer break from May to August. And during that summer break in June 2020, our parliament passed a new law. They made the legislative change to grant more independence to the municipalities to make the decisions case by case. Prior to this, if one school was closed due to the infections, all the schools were following the suit. Now the municipalities were given more independence to make these decisions and close schools one at a time, or everybody on a district, or just one class was sent home. In August 2020, schools opened normally and operated with the hybrid model. And this is where we are at the moment still. Universities to maintain distance learning for the duration of the whole academic year. And we just got a message that our university at least is going to keep on going with the distance learning until the end of the June this year. Fall came, and in the December 2020, upper secondary was moved to the distance learning. Again, we're moving on a hybrid model where part of the school can be closed and the other part is still remaining open. This part, the virus had mutated and attacking younger people, and this is why the upper secondary was considered to be at risk. At the same month, the vaccinations of the medical staff began, and we are moving with the vaccination program now. So hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months, we are closer to the normality. In January 2021, the last year of upper secondary returned to contact learning due to the upcoming matriculation examinations. So, because the matriculation examinations are so important, we kept the first and the second graders at home, but the third graders got back into school to be able to fully benefit from the contact learning in the half-empty school now. Continuous response to Finnish Institute of Health and Welfare recommendations is how the schools are doing their recommendations and basing their decisions from. Now, what have we learned from this? We have learned, not all of it has been negative. So this is also the lessons learned, and some of these things are going to continue with us. What we have learned during this year are going to continue with us even after things go back to normal. For instance, smarter and more efficient leadership. We are no longer tied to the location, and nobody insists on people to stay around the same table anymore during the meetings and things. This releases the time from the teachers to go home and prepare for the next day's lessons before the meeting set for the X time of the day, for instance. Focus has been put on a digital pedagogy and digital readiness, and the teachers have been supported on this. Also, we have realized that digital pedagogy is a lot more important than the digital tools we use, and the teachers are taught how to smartly choose the tools they're needing, and so they target the learning better. Parents and students appreciate school better, and adjusting to working methods is more important than a physical elements. So we have realized that while changing the way we work, it's a lot more beneficial than adding protected gear or focusing on the physical elements that could prevent the virus spreading. We need to adjust our way of working, not add the barriers. The interpretation of the national level guidance has been challenging, report the principals, but since they increased the level of autonomy, this has eased up the situation a lot, and they are able to focus on what is important. The school community should have a common understanding of distance learning, so the importance of communications has been put in a focus. So students, parents, faculty, and the leadership are fully in an understanding on what we are doing and why we are doing this, and how we're doing and what is everybody's role in it. Also, supporting students at home has been in a focus. So they are contacted daily. If a student is isolated at home, teachers must contact them daily and make sure they are doing okay. Teachers' capabilities to adjust to the curriculum obviously has been in a focus, and they have learned very creative ways on utilizing different methods on getting to the learning targets and identifying what is in the core of the learning targets. Teachers are able to subsidize each other regardless of the subject matter. So we have had cases where math teacher has been doing English lessons temporarily, etc., which has enlarged the capacity when people have been staying home for common flus and things more this year because of the precautions. So we have had sufficient enough capacity to keep the schools open. And teachers are able to teach the hybrid model and teach even with themselves are in quarantine. So we have cases where the teacher has been at home and the students have been in the school, or part of the class is at home and the teacher is at school and part of it's there. Regardless, they have been able to adjust to this and continue the schooling. And again, keep everything as normal as possible, focus on the core, adjust and move everything you can online. Now, I also asked the principal that I asked some practical tips. So what have they done in the schools? He said that the focus have been put on the infection change. So they have minimized the student group sizes and mixing of the different groups. If possible, they've been utilizing the services of one teacher, or at least minimizing the number of teachers that are in touch with the this student group. They have focused on hygiene, of course, but this has meant that they have to adjust the daily schedule. So you have to give more time to wash the hands when you have one sink in a classroom, etc. Or more time to move to the lunches or break times and move them in a way that not everybody is in the corridors at the same time. Unlike the Finnish model, usually we have moved to more teacher-led teaching because of the situation, less group works, or we have moved them online. We have removed the lockers and moved the backpacks, so all the students are carrying what they need daily in their bags. They utilize the architecture of the schools, so claiming the empty spaces in the schools, and also utilizing flexibly the spaces that are left empty because some groups are working from distance. They're also utilizing outdoor spaces around the year now, and they're taking, for instance, emergency exits to make the people flow better. They have even put in a sticker tape on the ground, so making sure that the flow in the corridors is enabling the social distancing for the students. They have moved everything extra online. So even though it's not the same, but the graduations, the staff meetings, parental meetings, any other school events, they're all taking place in line now. And everybody understands that this is something we need to do at the moment. Now, let's move to some of the things that the HY Plus has done during the pandemic and prior to it. So let me introduce how we operate first. We are firm believers that any country striving for the economic growth or positive social change must invest on an education. HY Plus helps in this work by operating with governments, institutional and individual level. We evaluate, we design solutions, and we execute those. And all of this is based on the latest pedagogical research that we get from the University of Helsinki. Now, Riikka already mentioned that we are a company owned by the University of Helsinki, so we're kind of the commercial arm. We are the middleman between the academic expertise and our collaborators and partners around the world. Our job is to speak to our partners and the local people and map out the needs that are there and find localized solutions and how to deliver them in a sustainable way. Now, since March 2020, we had to move all our operations online, and like Riikka, I'm hoping this is going to change at the end of the year and we can start traveling again and seeing our friends, partners and collaborators around the world. Now, these are some of the examples that we did before the pandemic. So as you can see, on 2018, we started a reform project in Ukraine. This is funded by our own Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Finland, and it is to modernize the Ukrainian education system, improve the teaching and learning, and focus on 21st century requirements, and also making it equal opportunities for all in schooling in Ukraine. Pandemic came, but we are still continuing this project and we haven't changed the time frame or anything. So we are able to work, which makes us happy, of course, even during these conditions. Prior to pandemic, we had a lot of larger professional capacity building programs, some of them taking place in the local areas and some of them taking place in Finland. This is one example of the group of South Korean educators who came to Finland at the end of the year 2019 to learn about how we do things in Finland, how our education system works, how our teacher training works, and school ecosystem and school culture. To learn about this, to implement it themselves on their own education system and updating their own education system in South Korea. We do shorter trainings on the locations as well. This is a positive pedagogical leadership and playful learning on early education in Lebanon. We did in 2019. You can see here is the professor, Dr. Jonna, who is actually teaching to these 200 Lebanese early educators math through the bubbles. And then came the pandemic. And we had to respond to the new norm as well at the HY Plus and find the ways and create new solutions for this situation also globally. So immediately in March 2020, we were contacted by the Emirati of Sharjah of their education academy for creating them a training for distance teaching and learning. So they contacted us on Tuesday, and by Saturday we were training them online on how to use digital tools, how to move all the learning and teaching online, and they were doing that in the following week. We continued our collaboration with Sharjah, and we just finished 2 trainings early this year on leadership during the exceptional times and about the inquiry-based learning for the early educators. So I'm going to go through them quickly, just in examples on some of the tested and trial trainings that we have done during these times, and we are happy to offer also globally on other people. So here is the leadership during the exceptional times. This was examining the different sides of the leadership and what had to change during the pandemic. The training was given by our own principals, Dr. Tapio Lahtero and Principal Ilkka Laasonen. So it was a peer-to-peer training for the principals talking to principals, because these are the, as said, different times, and we need to focus on the practical solutions more than on the theory. We had 250 school leaders taking part on the training, and very happy to learn about the different leadership styles from the distance, how to lead the community of professionals, how to motivate them, and how to keep the focus on students, supporting them and their learning results. I mentioned earlier the training about the teachers from the distance, and now since the times have changed since March, we have also developed another training focusing on the hybrid model. What is the hybrid model? What kind of solutions there are to utilize it? What kind of materials can you use, and how to keep the focus on students and the different learnings and different needs, and how we keep them motivated, because this is extremely tiring also for the students. This is also given by our own Anni Loukomies from our own university practicing school, who is teaching hybrid day in, day out nowadays. So she knows what she's talking about. And then we have for the early learners, also up to the primary level. We did the training on inquiry-based learning for 400 early educators just a few weeks ago. As the inquiry-based learning is also easy to take to distance if required. And it gave a short 3-day training on what is inquiry-based learning and why we should utilize it on early education and early years. Why is it so effective, and how we get the results, and how do we assess those results and outcomes in a different ways. We also offer some online self-study courses. While I say it's a self-study, we also recommend these to be taken in as a whole school, because this has a larger impact on the entire school culture if more than one teacher is learning about these things. Also, it is better for the teachers to have peer support, and they can, for instance, utilize the lessons learned and start school improvement projects within the school while studying this course. It is a one-year course that, as the name says, is STAR lessons. So it is meant for the good practices, methods, and giving a motivation for every teacher. It is based on the Finnish education solutions to enhance the skills of already good teachers, but getting to the modern pedagogical models and practices and the 21st century skills, and also now digital learning. We have already users in Uzbekistan, China, and India, and in Finland for this course. If somebody is interested, please contact me on this. And for this participants only, and for this webinar, we are opening the inquiry-based learning through STEM course for individual participants. Usually, again, this is the same reason we want to reach for the larger impact, and we already have feedback from the users of different early education units that this has, as said, quickly become a staple of sort of a lifestyle for the school. And this is only possible if a large enough number of teachers are embracing these practices. But however, these are also very good tools and a way of learning the inquiry-based learning as an individual online. The course is built in a way that the theory meets the practice, so there's a very short part of theory, but it guides you to the practical implementation of the lessons learned. You don't need to be understanding science prior. The course also teaches you what is the science behind all the lessons. And you learn yourself as well. It's actually very interesting. The course is suitable for the teachers who teach very young children up to the 3-year-olds, all the way up to the primary school, because it also teaches you how to teach on different age kids, even in the same classroom, and how to utilize and adjust to the correct age level, the lessons learned. There's 60 hours of versatile materials, including lesson plans, teaching methods, and assessments. And these lessons also work from the distance. So if you have a situation where your unit is closed, you can also utilize these lessons and take them to the distance learning. The materials that you use for the science experiences are cheap. They are everyday household things, so you don't need to have specific science labs to learn about these things. We have a course, for this course, we have users in China, in Lebanon, in Finland, in the United Kingdom. Minister of Education in Thailand is utilizing this course, and in Hong Kong at the moment. And of course, all of these courses come with the certificate of completion from us after you finish the course. We have also given a small discount on the course, on the license fee for this webinar participants. So if you are interested, there is the link over here where you can purchase it directly as an individual. The organizers have also promised to send the presentation, so you don't need to make the decision right now. You can wait to receive the presentation after this seminar. But that's all for me. I'd like to thank you all. Kiitos. There is a QR code where you can directly link to me in LinkedIn. I'm happy to continue this conversation, but both on the Finnish education system, the pandemic, and also if anybody is interested on the solutions. Please contact me or my colleague Riikka, and we are happy to continue this talk. And for now, kiitos.
Thank you, Minna, for this extremely interesting presentation, and also Riikka. There is a lot of ground you have covered, and people do have questions, and I would come back to you with the various questions after we have a couple of small presentations. I learned a lot about the system, a lot more than what I knew, and it is very interesting to know that you are actually granting even more autonomy to the municipalities and teachers during this crisis. Now, which means there's a trust-based system, which is something which we have to get used to. I now have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Neeraja Janaki, who is actually well known to the Kerala audience, because she writes frequently on matters relating to education and careers. She has a MPhil in psychology from the MG University and has experience in teaching in the schools as a school counselor. And currently she's running a startup called Mentors for You, which provides career advice to students, teachers, as well as parents. Neeraja also was incidentally a student at the HY Plus organized event in Helsinki last year, probably your last real program, visit program, and where she picked up a lot of ideas about the Finnish system. And she would actually be speaking about how the Finnish system can be implemented in India, in Kerala, and how the new educational policy would facilitate that. We just have released a new educational policy and how one will fit with other. Neeraja, you have the floor.
Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello all, I'm truly honored to be in this platform. Dr. Muralee, thank you so much for your kind words. As Dr. Muralee mentioned, I'm currently running a career mentoring and life coaching facility, Mentors for You. Actually, I have heard a lot about Finnish education and their success stories. As a person who is interested in the field of learning and education, I really wanted to explore how their system works and how they successfully manage it. So I attended HY Plus Edu Visit program in 2019 November and spent a week in Finland. So the program was a mix of lectures, meetings, institutional visits and all. So we visited schools, including Finnish and Swedish speaking schools, and some training institutions as well. Actually, I was witnessing how phenomenon-based learning, that's the specialty, it prepares the learners to solve problems using practical skills instead of passively learning concepts and abstract ideas. So when we see such a highly functioning system, we should realize that it doesn't happen overnight. It took time and effort. So in my understanding, beyond political ideologies, people and government consistently stood for it. Actually, this will not be possible, without maintaining continuity in quality as well as in policies. So coming to India, we need to think about what we can learn from Finland, what we can adopt from their system. Is there any possibilities of collaborations? So there I find India's new education policy, the National Education Policy 2020. It has a potential to get along with the Finnish model in some areas. So we are going to discuss that. So coming to the NEP and the Finnish system, I'll start from the beginning, the early childhood care and education. So this is one of the most significant inclusion in national new education policy. So which is applicable to the 3 to 6-year-old children, the age group that we consider as the foundation period of learning. So in Finnish system, they give very much importance to early education, early childhood education and care, and the pre-primary education. So there is a slight structural difference between a Finnish system and which mentioned in the new educational policy. Still, the concepts get along well, I think. The other one is vocational education. Currently, our India's vocational education largely focus on 11th and 12th grades solely. So the new education policy, it brings in vocational education programs to mainstream education. Actually, it starts from middle and secondary schools and continue to college, university level. It gives an opportunity to connect with various vocations along with their regular studies. For instance, if I'm a student with a major in bioscience, I could learn web design or carpentry along with my major subjects. So this is going to happen. So in Finnish system, they give much emphasis on vocational training. The structure is slightly different. From the upper secondary level, there are two different sets of institutions or streams one can choose. One is vocational stream and the other one is general one. So even in the university level, they have the differences. I think Ms. Minna already mentioned it, so I'm not going to the details. Then focus on teacher training. That's the next level. So Finland system gives special attention to the quality of teachers. So teachers have freedom to design the lessons, foster their students. They trust their teachers. There is a culture of trust actually. Also, those teachers are extremely capable of doing it. I must say something about their training system as well. So their minimum qualification of a teacher, even in the pre-primary session, is a master's degree. So one important change in the NEP that propose extensive training for teachers of all groups, irrespective of their areas. So mainly setting up professional standards for teachers. That's another point. So there will be a guideline, a national professional standards for teachers by 2022 as per the NEP. Another major difference is BA degree, that is the Bachelor of Education. This training becomes a 4-year degree program. So this is another point, which is, there is a scope where we can inculcate the Finnish strategy. Another important point is importance of language. There is a scope for learning more languages according to our new educational policy. So according to the NEP, there is a 3-language formula. As per this provision, a student should learn any 3 languages. We have 22 official languages and other languages, but the students, the state can choose these languages. One important thing is emphasis in mother tongue. New education policies suggest whenever possible, the medium of instruction until at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8 and beyond, will be the mother tongue or home language. So in Finnish system also, they give importance for learning languages. if I'm right, there should be a student should learn mother tongue, a national language, and a foreign language. So um, these are the major points that I wanted to discuss. Um, we all, we have always heard about the Finnish education system as a successful system that has been practicing for decades and globally recognized one. I think many of these innovations can be included in our education system. So we can discuss further in our Q&A session if possible. Thank you so much for the time and patience.
Thank you, Neeraja, for your kind introduction to the new education policy and how it aligns in many ways with the Finnish system. When we come back, we may ask you a bit about your experience in actually going to Finland and seeing some of it firsthand. We now have a final presentation, brief intervention from Mr. Unnikrishnan Kurup, who is an engineer and serial entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in the IT industry. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering from Kannur University, Kerala, and is also pursuing master's degree in education entrepreneurship from Oulu University of Applied Sciences. Unnikrishnan is based in Finland and spends his time working for his startups in Finland and India. He serves in the role of managing director of Venture Village, while spearheading product development in his high-tech startups. Before becoming an entrepreneur, Unnikrishnan has worked for MNCs like Tata Consultancy Services, Tech Mahindra, and has served as a consultant in companies like Nokia, McGraw-Hill, etc. I noticed that be it engineers or doctors who go to Finland suddenly get excited by the Finnish education system and start to learn about it, which is extremely good to know. Thank you, Unni. You are currently on mute, so you have the floor now.
Okay, thank you, Melissa, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak in such a webinar. So I'll share my screen now. Just tell me if is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone. My name is Unnikrishnan S Kurup. I'm one of the co-founders of Venture Village. And today I'll be talking about co-curricular learning. So, I have a different perspective about Finnish education. So, like, I'm an Indian who is educated in India, and I'm currently doing my master's in education entrepreneurship here in Finland. And also, I'm a parent of two children who are actually going into school in the Finnish education system. So, sharing the same perspective, that's how me and my friend and the co-founder of Finnsh Village, Dr. Anup Jinadevan, actually thought of bringing the best practices and like what is practical to bring to India, and we started researching on that, and that's how actually Venture Village was actually born. So let me start off this presentation with a quote. So the quote reads, one of the aims of the new Finnish national curriculum is to educate civilized and enlightened people. So let me repeat that. The key part there is the educate civilized and enlightened people. So it's from a book named Phenomenal Learning from Finland. It's written by an acclaimed author, Kristi Lonka. So I would recommend this book if you want to know more about the Finnish education system. So it is this quote has stuck with me from the time I have read this book, and like this kind of encompasses like what our thoughts are behind when we actually set up something like this. So the question that we asked ourselves is like, what is the Finnish think tank thinking of developing, or how are they planning to prepare the next generation of school children in Finland? And like we researched a lot, we read publications, we read books, and we talked to experts here in Finland, we talked to schools in Kerala, and we managed to find out like few skills that would be key and that needs to be brought to India. And as part of our research, we came up with these 7 points. So before I go through these 7 skills, the heading, I want to read it again. So what's essential for the next generation, regardless of their career. So irrespective of the career path that the child chooses, like what are the skills that are needed? So this is actually from the Finnish roadmap for the 21st century competence. These are many things that are actually happening now in Finnish education. So let me go through every one of these 7 skills, like in brief. So developing thinking skills and learning to learn. So this is mostly about the inquiry-based learning, like questioning the things that you actually read and see in the textbooks. And also, like this helps the children to develop critical thinking skills and creative and insightful thinking skills. And also, like learning to learn is more like, how do you say, like control over one's learning skills. How good a learner you are, what are the things that you need to do actually to learn a skill or a concept properly. So it's basically about discovering strengths and weaknesses. So this is one of the key skills that they are actually focusing on here. The second one is the cultural competence, interaction and self-expression. So this has mainly to do with building a cultural identity of yourself. Like Finland is a multicultural country. The workspaces here are like multicultural. Even in India, of course, when we are working with people from different states, it's a multicultural environment. So having an identity for yourself, respecting others as well as your own culture, like in a workplace or in an environment where you are able to interact and express yourself properly. May that be an idea or like an emotion that you want to share with your peer. So that is the key concept here, like cultural competence, interaction, and self-expression. The next concept or the next idea or the skill is self-care and managing everyday life. So this has more to do with the time management, and like I think this is very important in the current age, because there is a lot of self-regulation required in the digital age, like when you are looking important from a very young age here in Finland. Like, and then of course it takes care of the well-being and health, like taking care of yourself, and what is personal privacy. All those skills are actually incorporated in this. And then there is the multi-literacy skills. So when you come to that, like you can express yourself in so many ways. So it's about different modes in multimedia, like how you want to express yourself, like creating a video or like using a presentation, or even how to interpret somebody else's presentation or a video to identify what is correct, what is not correct. Like when you see a video, it's like in this modern world, it is very important to critically analyze a video or content that you actually see. So this is a very, very important skill that is given focus here. And then there is the ICT skills. ICT skills they have a lot of focus in India also, but it's not just about the coding skills that is focused here. So it's more about like, how do you say, responsibility and safety while you are actually while using technology. So like social interaction and networking skills, what is right, what is not right when you're actually interacting online. So those things are also given a lot of importance here. Then the next one is working life skills and entrepreneurship. So here, like, let me give you an example. Like children of 8th and 9th grade are supposed to go for a program called TET. In Finnish, it is Tio Elämään Tutustuminen, or it actually translates to working life familiarization. So at a young age, when they are in the 8th standard and 9th standard itself, children are supposed to go to some kind of a working environment. That could be a bakery, that could be a cafe, that could be an IT company, that could be like any environment. Like, but they need to get experience of working life from that age, and it is mandatory for children also. And then like it also teaches you the social interaction skills and networking skills, etc. And then the last one is the participating, influencing, and building a sustainable future. This is basically to build a pro-environment behavior in children, like to build a sustainable future. So the thing is that your next generation should be proud of what you have done currently, like with the environment, with the resources you have. That is actually given a lot of importance from a very young age here. That is what we have actually seen. So taking all of these points, all of these 7 skills, like it was like it was a big eye opener for us. Taking all of these skills, like we incorporated all this into kind of 3 simple terms which we want to actually focus on. That is to mold entrepreneurial citizens, environmental champions, and responsible leaders. Like as a company, you can see these 3 terms in our vision and mission statements and in the blogs that we write. But our idea is that like, there is a lot of scope, or like there is a lot to be done to mold a new generation of India who are entrepreneurial citizens, environmental champions, and responsible leaders. But then how to do it? That's where the co-curricular part comes in. there is like a lot of time and effort spent in the curricular activities. Like there's like for the competitive exams, getting good marks and getting into good professional colleges. And then there is a lot of time and effort being spent on the extracurricular activities also, whether that be football or cricket training or music training, etc. But then we wanted to, like similar to what, how many of these programs are done in Finland, we wanted to put in these activities as co-curricular activities within the academic calendar of the school, without affecting any of the other plans that they have, like exams or any of the other things, the things that they have planned. So like it is ideal to have these programs similar to here, that like it is happening every week 1 or 2 hours, but then it goes on for 1 month, but still the kids enjoy it and like they learn a lot of things and like they develop a lot of new knowledge around these skills that we actually discussed. So this is the path that we actually took after researching a lot from Finland. Now, what is the impact? So we are actually already doing this program. Let me give an example of this Green City program. Actually, I'm glad that I think there are many teachers in this webinar attending here who are actually mentor teachers of this program here in schools in Kerala. So around 3,000 children are actually doing it right now. But it is a program on sustainability and waste management. It's not just that like they learn something and write an exam or something, but it's mostly to develop critical thinking skills, go around and find out environmental issues near their home and then find a solution, create a project, submit it, etc. It's like that. And then we have like programs like Future City. It's not an online program, but it is where the children learn about money, about tax, about profit loss, how to run a company on their own. Basically, they will learn a lot within 1 or 2 weeks. And then for 1 day, they will be running a simulated city on their own, like playing the roles of government, public works department, election committee, bank. I'm not going to explain more. And then there are these programs what we have. There is a lot of important upcycling and circular economy and the social entrepreneurship as a growth engine. So we are focusing on this, and we are focusing on giving this to youth of the age 18 and above. So all of these courses can be actually accessed in our learning platform called learning.finchvillage.world. These are actually live now. The children are doing it. And actually, that's what mainly what I want to concentrate and explain. But then on going on the same line on this new skills, we are introducing programs on girls' health, menstrual health, and oral health. So those we are actually following the same path. What are the next 21st century skills that are needed for children, and we are going ahead. So that's what from the different perspective that me and my co-founder had, and to developing programs that we have and running now in Kerala and India. Thank you all. Thank you for listening to me. That's it. That's it from my end.
Thank you, Unni, for this extremely interesting insight. It has given a very clear structural way of looking at what education is meant to achieve. We are very happy to know that you are already working in Kerala, and if people are interested, you already have questions from the audience as to how can they collaborate. And so if you could just pick up those questions and answer to them, that would be very useful. That would have meant the purpose of this webinar is being served. I had very cooperative speakers. They all spoke within their time. Thank you. I now have the most challenging part, because we have lots and lots of questions which has come in. We'll try to answer as many as possible. But it's a very good problem to have, that we have a lot of questions. The bad problem would be that when we do not have enough questions. So I thank all the speakers once again, but then I want to start with Minna or Riikka. The question is about educating differently abled children in Finland. How is it handled? Are there special schools? Are there special teachers?
I believe
Minna.
Riikka would be the better one to answer this question.
Here I am. Thank you.
Yes, Riikka.
Yes. Well, the Finnish system is inclusive. So even differently abled children are, if possible, they are integrated in the normal school class. I was wondering if I could share, maybe we don't have the time, but basically we have for anybody, it doesn't, I mean, the child doesn't have to be, for instance, differently abled with a disability or a handicap, but the general support and our inclusive education system, it's for everybody, every learner. So we have a what we call a free tier support, and for general support, it can be like a situation in the family, for instance, or it can be something very minor for which affects child's learning, and then he or she is entitled to this general support. Then if we move on with the inclusive education system in Finland, then the second level is what we call intensified support. And then we will once again change some things. Basically, all the children go to their nearest school, and then they have the opportunity to learn there. But if we need to provide some additional support, also we are able to do that by adjusting some of the things. I can give more examples of the actual changes we make to ensure the support. And then the third tier is intensified, special support, and only at this stage we will draw, or the school together with parents and the learner or the pupil, him or herself, and also the school well-being group is part of that. Only at the third stage we draw what is called an inclusive education plan. So this is the system of inclusive education in Finland. And for instance, for general support or intensified support, we don't need a diagnosis. For instance, this is something that I'm asked a lot. Should there be a diagnosis for the child before he or she can get general support or intensified support or special support? No, that's not necessary. So every child has a right to go to the nearest school in Finland. He or she has a right to follow the curriculum, so that learn according to curriculum, but we adjust the curriculum so that the learning can happen and the child can learn. For instance, if we look at the, I'm sorry, this is going to be unexpectedly long answer. So please feel free to interrupt if needed. But
yeah, maybe you could make it shorter because we have a lot more questions. So it's very interesting. If you have any documents to share, that will also be very useful. But the answer itself is very useful.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand, and I can see also from the questions and answers session that probably some of the questions will take such a long answer that we are not able to finish this if we discuss it now. So maybe we can find ways to somehow answer them later. But just to mention, for instance, that the solutions we have for the inclusive education, they can be just variation of teaching groups, intensifying the collaboration between the parents or the home and school, for instance, or having a study assistant with the student. So many ways to do it. This is not an exhaustive list in any way, and I will but maybe I will stop here. Hopefully it will give you a little idea, and then we can continue in more detail if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. What we will do is to pick up some of this, and if you have any documents, etc., we'll share with all. We have another question for our expert from Finland, and also Anup and Unni, feel free to join. This is about the role of private sector. In Kerala, the private sector has played a big role in education, and in the institutions such as the CMI, as Father Prashant mentioned, runs hundreds of institutions in India. You mentioned education is free in Finland. So do you actually have a private sector presence in Finland? And if they are there, are they part of the free system, or is there some sort of a paid system? How does it work? Thank you. Either of you can pick up.
Well, I can take this one. As the system has been developing, the public schooling is the norm. It's trusted. The most parents take their kids to the closest neighborhood school. It's also highly difficult to set up a private school in Finland, so you have to have a very heavy reasons. One of them would be, for instance, a language reason. So in Helsinki, for instance, we have a French school and a German school, which are, and we also have international school, which is dominantly for the children from the EU organizations. So we have a massive offices here where the children of the people in there are going usually dominantly to that school. However, and of course, the university schools are private, but there's no fees because it is guarantees, right? And for instance, I can give you a personal example. My child has several home languages, but we are definitely putting him to he's going to start schooling soon. So we're going to definitely put him to the local neighborhood school, which gives him, and my reasoning for that is that academically he's not losing anything. On the contrary, and he's integrated into the society better this way because he is going through the schooling with his friends from the neighborhood. Hopefully that answered the questions. There's I could, if you don't mind, there was a question about homeschooling as well, and it's related to this. I could answer that one as well.
Indeed, I was about to answer.
Good, great minds and all that, isn't it? So the homeschool is also very rare. It is possible, but only very few cases take the opportunity. It can be utilized also in cases where a Finnish family relocates to abroad for a year, but they don't want to put their children into a local school for such a short period of time. So they have a support, they have materials and how to teach at home if required. But as said, most of the people do not take this option because the school also provides the social aspects for the life and teaches all the other life skills that apart from the academics as well.
Thank you, Minna. Does Unni or Anup want to add anything, since you know about the Kerala system and how, if it has any relevance in the private sector context?
When I moved to Finland, the problem was we were not having enough English schools there. So we opted for the available English schools, but the good thing was that all the schools were free, even though they were having a different curriculum. My children studied in IB curriculum, which is not the regular Finnish curriculum, but the school were still free. But still in Helsinki, we have few schools which can pay. But except one school, all these fees are very affordable. So I think Finland is keeping the thing in a social context that schooling and education should not be very expensive. That is the primary concept they are having. But for this one school, it is actually meant for diplomats and other people. So that's a little expensive. Otherwise, it is quite managed by the society very well, that people get education and people get options for education.
Thank you. So maybe I'll turn to Neeraja. I understand you went for a visit to Finland to learn about the teaching system there. So can you tell about a couple of things which you found interesting in actually the way things are taught in the classrooms?
In classroom teaching, I have been in a few classrooms during the class time. So they have, if I'm right, they have teacher-student ratio, which is 13:1 or something. So the teacher could manage the students very well. There'll be individual attention. They use technology to take classes. Online softwares are there, so computers are there, so students are allowed to keep their tabs or something in the classroom for learning purpose. So the students are, they're very looking happy in the classroom. They're attentive. They're relaxed in the classroom. So this is what something that strike, since I'm a person from India or Kerala, so our classroom culture is a bit different from all these things. So we have a more rigid, kind of classroom environment. They have more flexible, and teachers have extremely, they have the freedom to choose what to teach, how to handle the children. The system trusts them. So that's a huge responsibility, of course. So this is what I found. I loved it, actually.
Thank you, Neeraja. We have a question from Ishika Das, which is, I was so curious about the integration of subjects that take place in the Finnish school. I had read that concept of separate subject has been removed from the education system, and I was curious to know how it works. This has been in news a year or two back, and I'm actually keen to learn about that myself.
Well, I think this is one of those, no, I think we can answer this together. These are one of those myths that continue to circulate the globe, same as the Finnish children don't have any homework or no exams at all. So these are the myths that we're trying to, with the Riikka, when we're talking with our partners, we're trying to tell them these are, not so true. Riikka, okay. you wanna answer on this one?
Yeah, but of course, it's a lovely myth, really, and it's based on of course, we've been promoting, for instance, phenomenon-based learning in our schools, especially for upper classes, and there are project-type learning, for instance, where the students and teachers together, they select a phenomenon which they want to explore. And then, of course, it can take some math, some geography, for instance, biology, whatever. You can combine several subjects. So it's really an interesting approach. And maybe if somebody's really interested, Professor Kirsti Lonka, who is from the University of Helsinki, she has published a lot about this. So we are happy to give links to Kirsti's books as well for phenomenal learning and how to go about it also. Yeah.
Thank you, Riikka. It's interesting to know how authoritatively the myth goes around the world. I have been thinking it through myself. So we have a question for Anup or Unni. This is from Manasi Sharma, who asked, she's an educator with the Teach for India program, which is a very interesting voluntary activity with a lot of young minds in India from IT sector in particular, going to teaching for 1 or 2 years. So her question is, currently I'm placed in an underprivileged school where I teach science to the 10th grades. I find it difficult to engage and build sense of curiosity in these young minds. How do you suggest should I go about it? So the type of work which you did in some of the Indian schools, do you have any insights to give? Anup or Unni, you can take, yeah.
Okay. So yes, thanks for the question. Actually, we have one Teach for India, ex-Teach for India fellow working for us, who has already worked in some like how do you say, rural areas. So basically, our modules are like such that it's not delivered in a way that okay, this is you have to study this kind of. It's more of a fun kind of thing. For example. Like it could be like while teaching like maybe a little bit boring subjects like waste management or sustainability for very young children, but then it includes a lot of activities like games and which also makes them think, so that it's not just they are not restricted to thinking that oh okay I need to read this and I need to understand and there is some test coming. So I mean whatever the age of the child is, like if you say that okay we are going to do this and we are actually first we are going to make this is a challenge that we need to solve, that kind of an approach is what we are actually facing. I mean we are actually doing. So I mean I hope that answers the question. So we, instead of just going there and saying that we are going to teach some concept, we are actually working together with the children to achieve something. That's the approach we are taking from.
Thank you. Nancy can probably get in touch with Unni bilaterally and understand some of the approaches. So we have a question from Sharif, who is asking about the, so he has actually two questions, but I will ask you to focus on the second part. The first is about your secondary education system. So could you elaborate a little bit more? But the question which I found more interesting is that what are the challenges which the Finnish system faced in implementing these educational reforms? To elaborate it further, was it from the parents who are apprehensive about the new system? Was it from the politicians, or was it from the teachers themselves about educational reforms? And what are the current debates in the Finnish education system? Over to Minna or Riikka.
Well, I guess there is always resistance from some people on the change. And of course, currently, obviously, the new national co-curriculum, and well, not currently, just before the pandemic, there was a lot of discussions. Are we giving too much freedom to the children already? Are we not guiding them enough anymore with the new curriculum? But again, there's always going to be someone who, and there's many aged teachers from different decades who have getting the different training as well, teaching in a different context in the country. So of course, and this is a healthy debate and necessary in order to make sure that the system works. So the criticism, and especially constructive criticism, is always a good thing. So of course there has been a resistance on many things, as well as a positive feedback. It's been decades, so I'm sure there are many things that I'm not even aware of, because it started before my time. But of course, these are not painless processes, but they're slow. And when you can prove academically that it's a research base, that this works, people tend to believe that over here, and that quiets down the discussion. Of course, there's always debate on the funds, as everywhere else in the world. Are people paid enough? Are there enough resources allocated to this? Are the school buildings large enough to handle these things? But these are practical matters that are left to decide on a budget questions, not on the policy level. But generally, I think there is a general consensus that the Finnish education system works. The parents trust the schooling, as evident by the public being so strong in this country. Parents trust the teachers, and the teachers are led by very capable principals. And this is also something that we hear often from the teachers as well, that they have very good principal who knows how to lead the community. I'm not sure if I answered the question. Maybe Riikka has something to add on this.
I think we just have to move on. It's a really good question, really interesting question also. But let's not deliberate more on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we have, like any system, you would also have similar challenges. There's a question probably to Neeraja, but also to Minna and Riikka. This is about, how can somebody in India or another country get an opportunity to come and learn more about the system? So Neeraja can explain probably how she go there, and maybe Minna can explain how in the new context of not being able to travel, do you have a continued visit program? Neeraja, you want to start? Your mic is mute.
Should I start?
Thank you for the okay. Any confusion? Hello.
Yeah. If Neeraja,
Can
you can
I
start, and then I'll ask Riikka. Neeraja.
Okay. I have, applied when the application was open in the HY Plus website. So they have various programs. This one was an individual, an individual can apply for that. But there are various programs for groups as well. So mine was an EduVisit program, which was 1 week long. There were lectures from experts, from teachers, from experts from special education field, and we had visits also. Everything was pre-planned, so we'll get a schedule when we start from here. So it's like that. I don't know what's their current strategy, or so I think Minna can explain it.
Yep.
Well,
Riikka can probably ask what's the current status of the visit program.
Well, if I take the first word, certainly like Neeraja described. So we, let's say before the pandemic, we had what we call open edu visits. So anybody could register and join the program in Finland. But of course, most of our visits, even at that time, were organized for specific groups. So we were contacted, for instance, by companies or schools, school chains, for instance, and then organized customized visits for them. So that was before the pandemic, and of course we are hoping also to continue in this providing visits as soon as it's possible. But meanwhile, we've been working on a virtual edu visit or virtual visits, and it's still a little bit work in progress, but I think it will make a good substitute also. Of course, it's always best if you come to Finland and really you can see for yourself and speak with teachers and students and so on. But we are trying to organize this opportunity also virtually if we are not allowed to travel. And Minna will add to this.
Yeah, I think the problem is that since the situation is, even if you're allowed in the country, we can't take groups to the schools at the moment, and that would be a pity not to be able to visit the schools. This is, of course, to protect the children as well as the faculty over there, so we can't take any risks. But we also organize master classes, so for the group. So we do, and we hope to continue the edu visit as soon as possible after the world goes back to its normality. And as Riikka said, hopefully we get the virtual edu visits up and running soon enough so we can share our knowledge that way. Additionally, we have master classes that we offer now. We can do them online that can focus on a special topic. And take, for instance, 5 days at the moment, and we can do that. But just be in touch, and we'll figure out something at this stage. We are also same as our schools. We are also reacting in a everyday basis on a different situation, and things are liquid at the best as it is.
Thank you, Minna. We look forward to your virtual visit programs. At least I think this summer we may have to make do with it. And as and when you have information, please share with us and also this audience. We have come to the scheduled end time of the session, but we have still more than 75% of the people whom we started with, which is absolutely amazing. Normally we don't, we have huge dropouts, which really shows the interest. We also have lot more questions remaining. So if you don't mind, I would like to request you to stay back for a little bit more time to answer some of the questions. But since Dr. Martin is here and we had actually scheduled his speech at 6:55 Indian time, I would actually give him the floor so that based upon his wide experience, he could give some reflections, and then we will continue with our question and answer session. Dr. Martin Mallath holds a PhD in education from Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Ji, Bhavnagar University, Gujarat. He has served as a principal of institutions like St. Thomas School, Mahua, Gujarat, St. Mary's School, Bhavnagar, Gujarat, St. Xavier's School, Junagadh, Gujarat, etc. He also served as a coordinator, Christ Group of Schools, Bangalore, as well as president, INAC's Rajkot unit, while coordinating the academic and co-curricular activities of all Catholic schools of Saurashtra and Kutch. He also served as the Director, Department of Education of the Diocese of Rajkot, Gujarat. Currently, he holds the position of the Secretary, General Department of Education and Media at the CMI. The names of the schools which are read out are some of the best schools. So we are actually listening to somebody who has really hands-on experience in schooling and school administration. So, sir, Father, we are looking forward to your remarks. And if you have any questions or comments to raise, please feel free to raise. Please feel free to stay with us for some more time. We have actually stayed for the entire duration of this session, which we appreciate a lot. Also, Father Prashant, we really appreciate. I wanted to give you a chance to ask some questions in case, but you also have a chance coming up after this. Father, you have this floor. You are on mute currently, but you can unmute. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muralee. Thank you all the panelists for this fruitful evening. I've heard a lot about the Finnish education system since I've been from the school education background, as much interested in this topic of Finnish education. Today I got a chance to know more about it from the persons who practice and profess it and impart it. Thank you, Ms. Minna and Ms. Riikka. Ms. Minna explained it systematically to us, and she has explained the different avenues of cooperation also to us. COVID-19 has created a crisis in education all over the world, not only in India or in Kerala, all over the world. It has created a crisis. Practically, schools and colleges could not conduct classes in the regular normal mode all over the world this year. Online classes have been going on in different ways, but I don't think they could substitute the regular normal mode. Moreover, it was a new approach in education, so naturally it takes time to adjust to the new normal. The input by Ms. Minna on how Finland managed to impact education during the pandemic was really useful. We can learn from their lessons. Any system or practice that has succeeded in one place need not be a success everywhere in the world. But lessons can be learned from the success stories of others. There's a tendency to copy, to replicate any success story, whether it is of individual or institutions. We have to see what we can learn from anybody's success experience, interpreting that to our life context. The ideal way of adopting the success story of Finnish education system to our land, India, has to be explored more and more, especially in the context of skill development envisaged in the new National Education Policy 2020, as Neeraja has pointed out. Training in independent thinking skills is something that we have to learn from Finnish system. That is what I feel. Instead of being carried away by the rhetoric of leaders, children should be trained to think and act as independent thinkers. I think in the Indian context, we have to stress on that. Another webinar on topics such as leadership from distance, hybrid model of teaching, etc., mentioned by Minna, can be thought of by the organizers. Thanks to all the organizers, the CMI, SS College, Venture Village, Helsinki University, and their moderator, Dr. Muralee, for this wonderful, fruitful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Martin. Your cooperation, that of CMI, as well as the Secretariat College, has been extremely instrumental in getting us the audience, but also the right audience, people who are educators, education administrators, etc. And our collaboration with SS College is long-standing, and we continue to work with you and your institutions as we progress with other webinars. I now want to give an option to our dear participants who are around. I know many of you may actually feel very guilty if you to leave the session, but we know that the time which we planned is now over. So if some of you actually leave, no, don't feel bad that you are abandoning us midway, because you have stayed us for all time. But we will be continuing this session at least for next 20 to 30 minutes to answer some of the questions. But before you leave, I will ask both Unni as well as Minna to give a 2-minute pitch on what exactly somebody should do if they want to get in touch with you to understand more about how to cooperate, how to register for, etc. Unni.
Okay, thank you, sir, again. Anybody who wants to get in touch with us, at least you will be getting these the materials that we shared immediately after this webinar. Will be sent to your email in which you have registered. Also, there is our website venturevillage.in as well as venturevillage.world. You can always come in and look at the services that we are providing, and we have mentioned the different collaborations that we have, and please fill in the forms, contact forms, or there are emails mentioned. You can actually send us emails about it, and we will be very, very happy to help. We are already doing a few things right now as we speak. Quite many students are actually doing this program, and we will be actually starting some more programs, especially this Green City program after the exams that we will have in March. So if any of you or any of your schools want to cooperate with us, either you can send an email, which I would maybe after I talk, I would actually type in, or you can actually find out the contact details from our website and email us. There are forms for specific programs. We'll be very, very happy to help.
Thank you, Unni. I know you are always, free to jump in anytime. I'm just calling Unni at random. Same about Minna and Riikka. Between the two of you, please feel free to answer what exactly somebody should do should they want to get in touch with you.
Okay, so as Unni said, there will be an email sent after this event. There will be my presentation there, and both myself and Riikka's contact details, as well as the contacts for our webpage. And please scan the QR code. You can find me in LinkedIn as well. Both of us are very happy to continue the topic of the keynote today about discussing the Finnish education system and maybe some of the questions we don't even have time to answer. we're always happy to discuss those. And as Father Martin said, you can't import a full Finnish education system, but we are very skillful of finding creative solutions on different topics and discuss on the challenges that you're facing, and hopefully we can find the collaborative ideas for those outside even the ones that I presented today. So please be in touch in the low threshold, and let's continue the conversation.
Thank you, Minna. I noticed that only 10 people actually left after I gave them the offer, which just shows how much of interest is still there. Father Prashant, most of the discussion has been on the school education, and since you come from the higher education segment, if you want to ask a question or make a comment on the potential collaboration, or not collaboration, but sharing of information on the Finnish higher education system, you have the floor now. Otherwise, I will ask a similar question. Thank you.
No, I have a couple of comments. I already made those comments on the screen. One was regarding the new development. Maybe Neeraja already referred to it. The NEP provides for educators being educated, and the new platform for 4-year program, in which all of us can be definitely involved, and it seems to be a fascinating world altogether. Because I think that teacher education is the key to all that is being spoken about. When we think about introducing these kind of reforms, what is the group we need to get cooperation and support is the teacher group, and they need to be educated, and the educational pattern, how the teacher is being educated, is something we need to look at, and that is the domain of higher education as to how the teachers should be educated. And it is the new education policy speaks about integrating the component into the mainstream, so that a teacher would be educated throughout the 4 years of training and regularly exposed to the field of education, and by the end of the 4th year maybe equipped in one domain and also in teaching. So that seems to be a beautiful thing. That is one observation I would like to make, and I'm eager to see how this is happening in the Finnish education. Second is regarding the private sector. I belong to, I don't say exactly private, but we are public, but voluntary kind of sector being supported by the government in very many ways. But what is the role they could play, and is there any role at all for the private domain or the voluntary sector in as far as education in Finland is concerned? And now, as far as India is concerned, to a great extent, we are dependent on that. And whether there is any insight for that sector as far as drawing learnings from Finnish model is concerned.
Thank you, Prashant. Minna, but I would like you to then reflect on any other country where you have worked on, where you may have come across this similar issue of the private sector playing an increased role. So over to you, Minna or Riikka.
What we have noticed is that globally was, of course, yes, when I say that the Finland has a dominantly public sector, this is of course a historical fact. We have worked towards that, the decision, well, we do understand the value of the private sector. Of the same laws apply there as well, meaning that you have to have quality teachers, quality leadership, and the good school culture and implementation of curriculum. So we're talking about basically the same things. What we have noticed when working globally, that quite a lot of public-private partnerships have been formed, which is one of the ways to bridge the gap between the public and the private. So private definitely has a place in the societies and serving the education system. And it's also a way that we've been working. So the private public is one way of working, at least that's how I see the thing.
The topic, I'm sure, but maybe there was actually a question in the questions and answers session or that part about how private sector in education.
Absolutely.
And this is also a very relevant question, since in many countries, let's say that the private sector in education in a way carries the quality of the education, whereas the public sector really needs capacity building also. And when we are heading for a reform, I somehow, we have experience from different countries, for instance, from Nigeria, where once again, the private sector really dominates the whole education sector. Well, really cannot provide good quality education for those who are within the public sector. And I somehow see as a solution also that we should include, not exclude, the private sector if we are doing or carrying out or helping in carrying out the public sector reform, but we should somehow find a dialogue and collaboration also there. It's not easy, I know, but this is just something I wanted to add.
Thank you, Minna. I know you wanted to say something.
We were trying to build some cooperation, educational cooperation from Finland to Kerala after 2018 flood, actually. Then we realized that it is too difficult to penetrate this bureaucratic wall. So basically, private institutions are the key for cooperation between India and Finland, because they can make decisions by themselves, especially autonomous. So, and also apart from HY Plus, we had discussions with a few other educational institutions, Oulu University, and also Lapinranta, it's another region. So all of them were keen and eager to build academic cooperations with India. So basically, there is a huge opportunity and market for all kind of educational cooperation. For example, from Lahti, it's a different region. They are very much interested in green energy and green technology because they are focusing on that. And so I already mentioned to Father Prashant about this opportunity. We have these discussions going on, and of course there is a lot of chances for private institutions to come in and to collaborate and cooperate with institutions in Finland. And we are really glad to help for that. And we have HY Plus as our partner, but also we have connections to some other universities. And also these universities are a consortium. They help each other in building all these things. Not only they are doing it for themselves. So it's a big possibility for it.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Minna. There are a series of questions about a topic which Neeraja is also very interested in and has been writing extensively on. This is about sex education. So how is sex education handled in the Finnish education system? And was it a part of the reform process? Is there anything interesting which other countries, in your experience, find interesting? Over to you, Riikka, Minna.
I think you caught me on something that is in the curriculum that I'm not actually aware of in terms of the reform. I don't think this has ever been an issue. If anything, the sexual education has been increased over the years, of course, the importance of it, but I don't think it has ever been in the center of debate over here. Riikka, can you elaborate? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in this matter. If we could, of course, find out and check the current curriculum, national curriculum. We know it's there, but I don't know how much or at all if they changed it when creating the new curriculum. So this is something I'm not aware of, but it's included in the curriculum, that's for sure. Yeah.
And has been for decades. That we know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Riikka. Neeraja, do you want to reflect on your visit, and did you have a discussion on this topic, and did you find anything interesting or different from what you are familiar with in India?
Yes, actually, they have sex and relationship education, but it's it's a gradual process. In every classes, in almost every subjects, it is included, especially it's like in health sciences sometimes, or in social sciences, or social aspects and legal issues like that. So it is there. I think the new education policy, it's almost untouched area. So I think we need to work on it. We don't have a clear, a clear structure for sex and relationship education right here.
If I may add, I mean, this is obviously this is a question of the life skills and well-being of the students. And these have been, as Neeraja said, integrated on the everyday life, because the school's purpose is not only give academic knowledge, but more importantly, grow competent, independent adults who are able to take care of themselves. And obviously, this is a vital part of that, including physical health. This is part of the physical health aspects of the curriculum, of course.
Thank you, Minna. Anup or Unni, do you want to, as parents, who probably have children in the school, can you reflect on, how is it different from the type of education which you received?
Yeah, Unni is having a very small child, but my children are a little more older. She's now 23. So basically, yes, when she was in the school and when she was on the transformational stage with her sexuality, it was wonderful that she got all the information from the school and from the teachers, and then she was quite aware of the things which we were talking. Okay, so this kind of timely awareness given to the girls, that also inspired us, and also we are now introducing our co-curricular module on girls' health and menstruation, menstrual health, by February 15th, I think, at the timeline we fixed. So it is a kind of self-learning module which the girl child or the girl can discuss the things and learn the things along with their mother. So it's a self-learning thing. It's a information is available online, and she can learn it with her mother. This is a thing we learned from Finland. Like, this should be there. It should be taught, but we have to give some time for the girl to learn that thing in her own pace and to complete sense. So that's what I have to add on this, but it is there.
Yeah. Thank you, Anup. I think once again, if there is some information in English on this topic, it will be very useful if you can share with the participants.
And Father Prashant,
we have
some.
Did Prashant
not
raise
exactly
the hand to say something, or was he say bye to somebody who was first?
Exactly. I thought the discussion was getting over, and suddenly it dawned on me that nowadays we are having too much of stress being given on outcome-based education. I don't say it is too much, but then it's a recent trend. So this is more from the West, and it is from Bloom's taxonomy. And so whether this is being taken into account when curriculum is being planned and delivered in the school system itself. And among that, one of the outcomes which I desire, as rightly pointed out right now by Minna, is how to live well. So living well also would mean right kind of interpersonal relationships, not only confined to sex and such relationships, but also peace. So conflict resolution. So these two things, one is regarding whether outcome-based education is being in some way focused on, and is peace and conflict resolution part of the gradual education system that, as being said about sex education, is that being integrated into the curriculum in an incremental manner. This is much.
Thank you, Father. Minna, Riikka, want to?
I think it's a great idea. I think this is, I mean, all in all, we are looking at what we can only give them what we give them in the schools in those years when they're in there, and after that they have to take care of themselves. So peace and conflict resolution is one of very important things in the modern day world as well. And I think that's a great idea to integrate it into the education system. Ultimate goal is to create competent adults who are kind to their society, productive part of the society, and generally good people. That's the ultimate goal. All the rest of the academics they can learn, and outside even on the schoolyard. But this is something that is extremely important.
Thank you, Minna. Now we have a question coming on the training on coding. You know, this is the new IT revolution, and around the world, you actually have more or less a race to bottom as to how early should children be taught. In the high school is being trained. In Dubai, they are saying everyone at the age of 7th grade is being taught, and in other places they are even trying to bring it down. And there are private sector providers who are trying to capitalize on this as a market, because parents think, you know, everyone should be. So do you have any dialogue on this? Do you already have this in your curriculum or any plans?
The coding is, first of all, I don't know how to code, but my kid has capabilities of understanding how mentality works, even though obviously he can code or program it. It's funny, since he just turned 5 and we got him this little toy robot that teaches you how to think like a coder. So it's not meant to have, because the coding is a language. So it's the way I consider it is that it's it teaches him another language, the way to think, the way to process things. Instead of, I don't expect him to start coding apps and programs and things, but it's to help him and support him on doing that. But I'm not forcing him to learn coding. Coding is part of the curriculum already in the primary school. There is some schools can use robots, but the idea is that they start thinking how the coding language works, not to be able to code necessarily, but understand that if I add this to this, then the robot does this. So it's just the basic getting your mind ready for that kind of idea. Because some point they will need to know how to code. I might be able to get through my life without learning that.
Thank you, Minna. I want to Unni yourself, you did coding for a living, I suppose, but I did not see coding as one of your offerings in the Venture Village. So I would like to know what's your take on it.
Actually, as a person who is even now working with a lot of IT and code development and product development, there is a growing trend that the code is actually disappearing. You don't need to code anymore. Because the thing is that it's always about connecting logical components to get something working. So I've been in a situation where I have to write code from scratch, but then I've been in situations where it has already been written. I can just use it. And because we always choose easier options. So there are always components available that you can actually reuse. So we don't have that, or even using tools and implementing and using it in different ways is what even I am focusing on my children here. Because I'm not saying that coding is actually going to disappear completely, but then the thing is that there is a trend that it's not that we might not need code, but then there is a no code movement happening because there is components available for everything, even like in a professional setup. So there is always coding required in the research part. I'm not denying it, But then as a professional thing, like there is a trend which is going for no coding. So I'm not that against coding, but then I'm just saying that this is the trend. So.
Thank you, Unni. We have exceeded by 24 minutes. I want to thank all the speakers for staying some extra time, and I would probably take just one more question before I ask all of you to probably reflect 30 seconds on your final thoughts. We have a question from Gina, who is actually currently living in Finland, in Oulu, and is from Kerala. And she's asking, she has been following the Finnish education system and very appreciative. How would it work in a place like Kerala where the population density is high? Probably she means not so much the population density, but the student to teacher ratio is higher. So I would like to ask if you have an experience in another country where you are introducing it, where you have higher population and higher ratio of teacher to student.
Well, I have to say that basically everywhere we work is a higher ratio and also population density, because again, we come from the country of your neighbors are far away from you, and there's a lot of empty space here. But of course, this comes down to the teachers' education and how they can manage the larger groups and how to organize the lessons and how to organize the flow of the day. Of course, there's an idea, numbers are there, but we also have in Finland, we have smaller schools where the teacher, village schools, where the teacher has to teach classes from 3 to 5 in the same classroom, and they have managed. I personally come from that kind of school. Back in the day, I did my primary schooling like that in a smaller village school, where a teacher handled at best 3rd to 5th graders, yes, in the same classroom. A lot more than the recommended number, and they still managed. So there are things and solutions that we can also share on this.
Thank you. The questions keep coming and many of them are interesting. So I really apologize, but I have to ask just one more question. This is about assessment of students regarding their aptitude. This is a question which keeps coming around the world as to, can you actually do some sort of an assessment to understand students' aptitudes and calling? Is there something like that in the Finnish system? And if yes, is it one-step process or a continuous process? And I think that will be the last question. I thank all those who have asked the questions. And I know you have a lot more questions. We will continue this. We'll share the emails. But in order to give everyone enough, who have spent more than 2 hours on this, 2.5 hours now, we'll allow to stop this, which is a good problem to have. Mostly our problem will be the opposite. So one last question, Minna.
In terms of assessments, there are various ways of doing assessments, and these are down to the teacher to decide how they do it. Each student has, even on the upper levels, they do have one teacher that is responsible of that class, even though they have subject teachers. In a primary school, these are the class teachers. So the system is, of course, also based on the fact that the teacher knows the students, and there is the drafted individual learning plans for each student to, which also discuss on the learning targets, and also early intervention models where you contact the parents as soon as there seems to be problems or address issues fast. But of course, this is based on the teachers knowing and being able to intervene when there's issues. Also, this goes to if somebody is academically more gifted and they need to have more challenging work or help their classmates or things. So but in order, it's very rare. Because of this, it's a holistic approach to the student as well. Are they ready to move up on other levels, even though they're very gifted on something? Did I answer the question? I'm not sure.
A part of the question was about, doing all this psychological assessment as to you are more fit to be a doctor or an engineer. So do you have some?
So we're talking about the career opportunities. Of course, there is a guidance provided in schools for this as well. But also the journey is supposed to be that the people also, the teachers nurture the good sides of you and encourage you on the things that you are excited and support you on the things that you are not. And they do guide you towards your career opportunities. But of course, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation as well, when you're 16 and you're supposed to make the first big decision, you might be too young to make that. But the system allows you to bounce back, change the directions, change your mind. There are only few students who already know at the age of 16 what they really want to be when they grow up. But we try to support them in schools as well and help them to think what is their right career choice.
Thank you, Minna. Back here, parents actually know even before the children are born where the children are going to be. That's how it works here. But clearly, I think the opportunity to bounce back is absolutely important, and the new education policy for the first time gives us that flexibility, and we are very excited about it. So we are 7:30. If anybody want to make any final last pitch points, feel free. Otherwise, I would thank all of you and conclude. So Unni, do you want to make anything, or anybody want to say any last words before I close?
Mine is more of a process oriented. We'll be sending out the email immediately after this session is over. So you'll be getting the links to where the presentation materials are, and also more details of what was discussed. So that will be sent out quite soon, within 5 minutes, I guess.
Very good. Thank you, Unni. Anup, any last words? No. Okay, Minna.
I think I spoke enough about the topic, but I want to send a message to all the educators, teachers, principals, school leaders out there. Hang in there. It's tough. You're in the front line, and there is an international community supporting, and I'm so happy to see everybody around here. We are all fighting the big fight here now.
Thank you, Minna. I think the type of heroic fight which our teachers have done is probably underappreciated. The doctors and nurses on the front line, of course, they get a lot of visibility. But as you mentioned, switching onto an entirely new way of teaching within 48 hours, has been quite heroic. And when it comes to, place like ours, where teachers have all type of challenges, from what type of instruments they have, how much bandwidth they have, and how little technological training they have had, I find what our teachers have done is absolutely, truly heroic. And I'm sure we'll have time to celebrate it once we are over this tunnel, which I'm sure we will all get through. Father Prashant, any final words?
Thank you for this fabulous opportunity. I think this is a very enriching session, and I look forward to continued collaboration. I think we'll build on this from now. Thank you.
Riikka?
Thank you, everybody, for today. It has been really, really valuable experience meeting and things here, and definitely we will continue the collaboration and let's see what we can achieve together. Thank you.
Thank you, Riikka. Neeraja, do you want to make any final remarks?
First of all, thank you so much to be here for everyone. And I'm much honored to be here, actually. So it was a great discussion. Very well, there were a lot of questions, and, looking forward to such sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neeraja. You can see on the right side on the chat, it is exploding with thank you to all the panelists. And we have more than 157 people who have come in, who are still with us, doing this almost for a living, almost every other day, I can tell you that this is truly exceptional. This just shows the value. So let's continue with this dialogue. Please keep an eye on our state. Please continue to send our way any new interesting insight you have. And I thank all the participants who came, listened to us and left, and those who are staying with us. Prashant, please convey our thanks to Martin, as well as all the teachers, educators, and the CMI for the support you provided. Thank HY Plus, thank Venture Village, thank Mentor Plus, and also thank Tommy, whom the participants probably don't see, but who has been the heart of this presentation, who has been ensuring seamlessly. So have a good evening, Helsinki. Have a good night, India, and have a good morning in some places where you people join from. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.